Welcome back to the next episode of the bed build. Today I've done the physically hardest part of this job, and that's breaking down the majority of the plywood. And you saw me getting some of it out of the plywood bin there and hefting it onto the table saw, and I spared you the details of the very kind of difficult process. It's not a process for the meek. If I weren't the stature I am, I don't think I could do this with the 3/4 inch oak plywood on a table saw. There are alternatives. Laying it out flat, using a circular saw and a sharp blade. Sharp blade is important. So what I've got here is 3 sheets of oak plywood broken down, and I'll turn the camera so that you can see more of the plywood and less of me. So this is pretty much the bed. What we have here is we have 2 cabinets. This is going to be 2 cabinets, 2 pieces. These are the divider pieces. They will stand up here. Okay, they'll stand up, and they form the cubbies in here. Okay, so there's three dividers here to stand up, and that makes 1 cabinet. And same thing here. There's 3 dividers. After those stand up, then these dividers here will go between there. Some of these need to be trimmed yet to exact size. That's really easy, so I don't bother do that right away. I have yet to cut the spruce plywood, but that kind of comes in at the end for the most part. There's 1 piece, maybe 2 pieces of spruce used in construction of this. The rest of it is pretty much just kind of laid on the top, which will be structural to hold everything together nice and square. But the next part of this process, because these are cubbies and they're going to be a big thing, and they're going to be kind of a cavity, I've decided that that's not something I want to try and put a finish on after I've done that. So now that these are cut to size, I'm going to sand these, I'm going to stain them, I'm going to spray them with polyurethane to protect that wood and give it the color I want, which is nice. It's always nice to see the finished color. I can show you that when it's ready. And then after I've done that, I'll run the grooves and the dados and the rabbets, and because we have all 3. I'm going to use a couple different methods here. Normally I run all of my dados and rabbets and grooves on the table saw. This is some pretty big material, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run those, I think, with my router instead of the table saw, because I need to make a groove from end to end. 74 inches. That's a long groove, and even across these I need to make some dados. But running that sideways through the table saw, that's a dicey proposition, and so I can do that with my router as well. So not too much to see right now. I didn't want to bore you with just sliding plywood through the table saw. I'm sorry if you were wanting to see that. You didn't see it. It's way too difficult. It's not a thing that I want to show anybody, because it's it's awkward, and it wears me out. I'm tired. It looks like to me that this oak is 2 different species. You can see this. You can see this is the oak I bought. Okay. And that definitely is a nice red oak. This is the oak I had on hand. And that, comparatively to me, looks like white oak. Which is fine. I prefer white oak. It's funny. If it's red, it's red oak. If it's brown, it's white oak. But regardless, hopefully once I stain it, then that difference will go away. You're not going to see much of this. Really just looking in the cubbies, looking at the kind of the footboard, you're going to see. Other than that, you're really not going to see much. So all of this stain and all this finishing is not for very much of a good reason, except, you know, you can see it, so that's why we do it. I don't even have any of that stain. I need to go back to the store. But I've got a lot of sanding in my future here, so I'm gonna get at that. We'll sand it up. We'll sand it up to 320, and this you have to be really careful with this because the oak veneer on this is very thin, and you can sand through that real easy. This white oak here, actually, I think some of it is getting worn right through as well. But yeah, it's very, very thin veneer, so you're just touching that with a sander to make it smooth. You're not doing anything else, which is fine. It's plywood. It's already flattened and straight and dimensioned, so you're good there. Again, not too much exciting to report on this project, but this is what it is. I'll get at some of this sanding. It's very nice to begin with, so maybe I'll start with a 120, or maybe even a 150, and just hit it with a 150 and a 320 and call it a day, because I don't want to sand that veneer too much, and then we'll get some stain and stain this up. It sure takes up a lot of space on the table saw. This is a big project. So enjoy and have fun. So the Black & Decker sander, I'm not a big fan of Black & Decker tools. I think they're kind of junky overall. And I bought this. Sanders are very expensive, even this one. I bought this, used it for quite some time. Probably not even a year though. And the switch went out on it. They replaced that under warranty, but that was a whole circus getting that done. And it's worked well since. And what I like about this sander is it actually collects a lot of its dust. There's a lot of its dust in there. So it doesn't have to have an external dust collector to get a lot of that dust. It's small, it fits the hand nicely, not a lot of vibration, and it doesn't go crazy when you turn it on the pad for random orbit. Some of them just start to spin wildly. Spins, but not great. I've got another one that just goes nuts. So anyway, and you know, somebody told me once, I took a finishing course a few years ago, and one of the first things he said was, you know, people hate sanding. I don't think anybody loves sanding. I don't mind it, but I don't love it. And he said that most people don't know when they're done sanding. And I believe that's true, because you see what light passes I'm making on this material. There's nothing wrong with this material. I can finish it the way it is. I can just bring it up that much more just by passing that sander over it, and it really improves the surface. So you don't just have to sit there and scrub forever. Just run it over there. Here's my early American stain. I don't think Minwax is a real high-end stain product. I don't know really what constitutes a high-end stain product. This is available at my local hardware store. They have many colors, I'll call them, many stain tones. And this one I like. Let's compare the red oak and the white oak. I'm assuming that that's what the difference is here. It really looks like that to me. Staining is one of my favorite parts of building a project. And if you can't stain oak, you probably should stay out of the wood shop. Oak is very easy to stain. It takes stain very well. And I think that's looking really nice. What doesn't stain well are woods like maple and pine. Pine is about the worst. Doesn't stain evenly, it's very blotchy. Look at this. That's beautiful. That is exactly what I want that to look like. We'll see how this white oak compares once I stain it. I can see a little difference here. It's mostly grain though, but I can see that this is a little more red. I mean, it's red oak, so that's going to be red. Well, I'm going to continue staining all these pieces. And nice thing about stain is it dries fast. You don't need to put multiple coats. As long as you put plenty on to begin with and then wipe it. If there's pooling or puddling, you know, wipe it off. The red oak is definitely going to look a little different, but it's going to be just fine. One advantage to staining at this stage of the process is that when you assemble, you use wood glue to assemble the parts together. And if you get wood glue on your surface, the stain won't soak in. And you'll see that. It'll be very ugly. And then it's an issue to deal with. You have to sand that off, etc. So you stain it now. Then if you get glue on it, you take the glue off, or even if you have glue residue, you're less likely to even see it. I hope you enjoyed today's installment. That takes care of the staining, and next video we'll be using my router to cut rabbets and dados and grooves, and so that should be interesting. I normally do that on the table saw, but for these large pieces I need to use a router instead. I hope you're looking forward to the next installment on the bed build. It's coming along okay. It shouldn't be too long before this is coming together. Take care and have fun.